February 1924. Answer to a question about the difference between animate and inanimate. In the world there is only matter and energy. Energy is also a kind of matter. You have heard about God the Word. One force becomes three. In every phenomenon, the third force can either arise on the spot or come from without. It can come from the same level, or from another level, or from a third. If it comes from a higher level, the result is a thing in itself. The Holy Ghost is then the neutralizing force. I shall try to explain it in this way. Here are levels. Here is absolute rest. Although it has vibrations, they can bring it out only so far. If the triad is formed with absolute rest from a lower level as passive force, then this absolute rest enters into the composition of it, pulls it down toward earth, etc. Here is another explanation from a different angle. Everything feeds and is fed. Even a stone feeds. Each center can be fed by its own matters or extraneous matters. It has its own soul, in the sense that a stone has a soul, and an extraneous soul, a soul in the proper sense. The third force comes from a higher level. Being fed by extraneous matter, the center produces another, a different matter. Take, for example, the lungs and the stomach. Both are composed of matter that is approximately the same, yet they transform different matters. A center can manufacture fine matters. On a certain level, food of a definite density is needed. The manufactured product must be of that particular density. Here is the sun. A certain matter passes through it from above without changing. Here is earth. Between the sun and the earth there are levels. There are two possibilities here. Either this matter passes through, or, if there are special receivers, it is arrested. These apparatuses, designed to arrest it, manufacture fine matter. It can be of several orders. No, this absorption is not accidental. Remember the inner octaves. This C is closer to the neighbouring octave. It still has echoes of it. The next note no longer has anything. So this C can manufacture finer matter more easily. Of course, if it works alone, this finer matter is only thrown away. But if three work, it can become crystallized. The third force exists in the whole organism. For instance, it exists in you taken as a whole. It can be measured, but it does not exist in a separate center. So far we have frequently touched upon the processes of nutrition of the human organism. Now, with the help of indications and data already given, we mean to examine in greater detail the chemical side, the essence, so to speak, of chemical processes taking place in the organism. It has been said already that in every place, at every point of the universe, all the influences reaching it combine in accordance with a certain definite law. We have been deducing these laws of mathematical correspondence of different substances which act as links, as it were, in one or several chains. By acquiring different properties depending on its place, matter which was originally one became divided into a series of separate, quite definite degrees, connected by a continuous range of continually changing matter. Since all the properties of matter at any particular place are quite definite, they can be calculated, as well as all the influences brought into that place with other matters. The same can be said about the energy which fashions the matter and pours in and out of it, as well as of the energy contained in it. The laws governing combination of matter and energy of different degrees of, so to speak, kinship are the same on all rungs of the ladder. As in large cycles, so in small phenomena, all interaction, all combinations, shocks, changes, new formations, crystallizations, all relationships of matter and energy which we never get separately without their dependence one upon another, are subject to these laws. Therefore, when we speak of matter, we necessarily speak also of the energy contained in it, of its dynamic quality. If we touch upon processes which take place near the earth and in the earth, we shall find the same laws. Many varied influences reach the earth. Please note that whenever I use the word influence, I mean matter, substance, charged, as it were, with the corresponding energy, which in certain definite conditions begins to interact with other substances it meets. If we illustrate it thus, the diagram will represent schematically the surface of the earth. The arrows represent different influences which reach the earth, penetrate into it, or pass by. We have already mentioned the fact that influences which are of the nature of the sun reach the earth. But here influences of all the planets of the solar system intermingle and continually change. Other influences of higher levels also reach here. All their varied combinations determine the organic and inorganic life on Earth. The only difference between them being that, in the case of organic life, combinations of energy are of a special variety. When certain albuminous compounds are obtained in the laboratory, their chemical content does not differ from similar compounds in organic life, but they do not possess that energy which is present in the combination we call life. Consequently, all experiments and attempts deliberately to produce life have met with no success. Influences which surround the earth and penetrate it by the interaction of forces according to the law of three can be represented schematically by the following diagrams. Their action produces round the earth and in it new combinations of matter, constructed according to law and supplied with corresponding energy. By their interaction, by means of which they can enter into various combinations, now actively, now passively, in relation to different substances, new classes and varieties of matter are produced. These combinations give rise to subsequent links of that particular chain, and so on. By all these processes there are formed on Earth all the varied combinations of matter, metals, minerals, elements of our chemistry, organic and inorganic compounds, solid, liquid and gaseous states of matter, as well as all the forms and varieties of organic life, from microorganisms to man. All this infinite variety of already existing forms, combinations and states of matter react differently to the basic influences which reach the earth from the different links of the cosmic scale, the path of which lies through the earth. Some forms receive matters which reach them independently, others do so through certain transmitting combinations. The first seem to exist in the closed circle of the law of octaves, since they contain a complete octave in themselves, and are an expression of it. They lead a self-sufficient existence, if we can express it thus. receiving these matters merely as the necessary food and nourishment, and thus maintaining the lawfully completed process of metabolism and inner life. They possess within them a crystal of free matter, which is independent in itself, and bears within itself all the eternal laws of matter. They crystallize as a dough, as a whole. Other forms are incomplete, imperfect, and influences can be transmitted to them and through them, but not as to those stable compounds and centers of interaction which characterize the processes of inner life of forms completed by a crystallized essence. This refers equally to all states of matter and energy, to all the so-called kingdoms of nature. From this point of view, each plant, for instance, is a certain definite concentration of a particular kind of matter with a certain energy. But, depending on conditions and influences, this combination assumes in one place a character which it does not assume in another place. Differences in classes and varieties of plants are due to this circumstance. A plant which possesses all the fullness of independent life contains in itself a complete octave, and is a completed dough, one. Therefore, in the established process of its life, it can be expressed by that symbol of the octave of which we have spoken. It interacts with the influences reaching it, which maintain its life and feed it, in the same way as the process of breathing maintains human life. Through the triangle of the symbol it is connected with these influences. Each note of its crystallized essence is in its turn a complete closed octave, that is, the same symbol subordinate to the first. On the circle of the basic symbol, the points of division of notes will be smaller circles. Examples of plants of this kind are those from which we get tobacco, hemp, belladonna, coffee, cocoa, besides certain other plants and fungi, as for instance fly agaric. He takes as an example opium, and explains how each octave contains other octaves. Plants which do not possess a crystallized principle produce a full octave only in tinctures, in fluid combinations of substances contained in them and assimilated by them with substances which, as it were, pass through them and for which they act merely as transmitting stations. So in the process of their life, the symbol of the octave refers only to a fluid combination of matters which is not stable like an unchanging crystal, and the notes of their scale produce a closed circle only in combination with other substances not contained in them. In other words, these plants sound dough only in combination with others which possess a supplementary dough of a complete octave of the tone. Like every living thing, a living plant possesses a special kind of energy which, as has been said, is absent in the same plant when it is no longer alive. Life is the sounding of the octave. It is the symbol of the totality of incoming cementing influences, representing the same triangle, which, taken together, as well as each separately, act as shock, as the Holy Ghost, in maintaining the life of plants. Or it is connected through a series of intermediate stages and links with the octave of the cosmos, where it plays the part of a cell in a complex organism. Plants are ducts through which there flow influences which connect them with forms above and below them. When life is extinct, for instance, if a plant is cut down, the energy inherent in it is dispersed. The triangle comes out of the symbol of the octave of life.